Hey, sports fans! Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show. Coming at you, as always, on a nice Monday morning over with Andrew Combo Salib to discuss the latest and greatest in the NBA free agency and anything else you guys want to talk about. So, Combo, what's happening?
All is well. I was conducting some interviews at the Top Elite All-American camp at Basketball City, and a lot of fans of the show came up to me. I watched you and Coach Nick on B-Ball Breakdown, so that was really fun. We got following all over the world, Coach Nick.
You know, Chip told me he was at a camp this all past week, and people were coming up to him as well and telling him that they saw him. So it's getting out there. The word is out. The channel is popular. It's great to hear. Hello, everybody out there right now in the chat. Reggie, Darnell on the snap, Kanishwar, and Steven. Don't forget, if you want, and I fixed that, CBK. Don't worry, I fixed the title already, so hopefully it'll refresh on you. And I had a little minor spelling mistake in the last bit of the title. Nonetheless, well, don't forget, if you want your question answered on the show, we put up on the screen. We give you a lot of love and a lot of hype, and it really helps us keep the show going. So if you want to do that, Super Chat is the way to go over on the YouTube side. So join us over there if you're not there. What's happening? So we got a lot to talk about. I think Paul George probably does lead the league right now in terms of what the most interesting free agency move so far. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I love the fit, and just like the last superstar he was with, I just don't believe in the health of the Sixers franchise player. And I'm usually not that guy that talks about like, oh, he's probably going to get injured, because I've dealt with my own injuries. It's the worst part of sports. But, you know, history tells us like Kawhi Leonard and Joel Embiid, I mean, there's a good chance they're not going to be able to stay healthy through the course of a regular season, postseason, and finals. So, you know, as much as I like the fit, I don't really know how much it moves the needle when Joel Embiid is your franchise player.
You're right. He goes from playing with Kawhi, who's really struggling to stay healthy, to Embiid, who struggles in a similar way. So that's interesting to me why that happened. Embiid, you know, got in his ear, right? I saw that. Remember, they were both on the same broadcast, and we saw.
I think he gave him the eyes, right? Like,
yeah. So he definitely there was some influence there. Maybe the decision had been made. I do know that there was a sign and trade with the Warriors. I thought that was going to happen. But the Clippers didn't want to facilitate that. I kind of get it. Would they really want to help a Western Conference rival get better like that? Probably not, even though they'd get some good stuff in return. So that was interesting to me in a way that I was surprised. Then I thought, okay, well, Paul George wants to go to the Warriors. It seems to me the Warriors, if they could have, it might have been a timing thing where if Klay is gone, which he is, CP3 is gone, and they could move Wiggins. In my mind, they could have enough room to then sign Paul George to a free agency contract. So, but I suppose he didn't want to wait. Maybe that was part of the problem.
Maybe he didn't want to wait. I am surprised that he decided to come back out east, right? You know, he's from the West Coast.
Yeah,
so,
that too.
I mean, he likes getting his podcast done out there. I feel like he's comfortable out there. And some people like the idea of chasing titles. Others don't like the idea of chasing titles. But it'd be great to see Paul George with a championship.
Sure. Well, you know, before we'll continue this conversation in a second, but we have our first super chat from friend of the breakdown, a pimp named Slickback. Thanks so much. Great to see you. It's been a little while. Great to see you back and have a good question here. They ask, who has had a better week than ME? The last week for us Nets fans has been like receiving a second chance at life. I'm hyped for our future. Oh, I just said ME, didn't I? When I meant me, he's like really putting me in all caps. My fault. Who has had a better week than me? The last week for us Nets fans has been like receiving a second chance at life. I'm hyped for our future. Okay, why is he so hyped for the future of the Nets?
Because he got 4 first-round draft picks. He got Bogey plus more draft picks. I mean, they got a haul for Mikal Bridges, but the thing is Mikal Bridges has more value to the Knicks than any other team in the league. So I believe it was good for both sides. And it's interesting. The Cold War is done. They haven't traded, I think, in the past 30 years, the Nets and the Knicks. So wow. That's interesting. I guess, you know, they're on totally different timelines at this point, and they can help each other out. And I think it was a good trade for both sides.
Yeah, I mean, certainly first round picks are, you know, still pretty valuable. Again, it's a complete crapshoot when you're trying to pick who's going to do well and how and whether they fit into your culture. So that's a little troubling when you know, depending on how much value you want to put on that. But I see where they're going, and they want to kind of let's get cratered and get back more quickly that way. So that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, you know, we'll see how well that works. It requires a lot of deft management and you know, smart moves, which we'll see if the Nets can kind of put that together. So I don't know. I don't know how much, they're going to be some pain for a little while, right? The Nets are not going to be relevant for 3 years.
Yeah, I would agree. So maybe he just thinks, instead of middling, just total rebuild right now with all those draft picks. You kind of take the process route, the OKC route, and try and, land the right prospects in the draft. And probably bottoming out is in the best interest for the Nets at this point because they weren't going anywhere.
For sure. And if you haven't seen my video on Mikal Bridges and the Knicks, please go watch it because it's really cool stuff where I'm able to show the real context to me is that because practice time is so limited, if you can bring somebody in who's already on the same vibe and understands how most of the other players play, that really helps you with shorthand and getting going right away. So, and it's a cool thing that talking about cutting, which I think is something we don't do as much in the modern NBA. But I do think the Celtics have sort of laid the groundwork now for finding more of those cuts out of the weak side corner versus just standing there hoping for a kick out every so often.
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways to create gravity. Either you're cutting through space, which kind of keeps the defense's head on a swivel, or you just have shooting on the opposite side. So, yeah, I think both things are really important with creating gravity. And your point to the chemistry with Mikal Bridges, like I look at it like this, like Mikal Bridges to the Knicks is like Draymond to the Warriors. He's just more valuable on that team because of the way he plays, the chemistry with the other players than any other team. I mean, it's kind of like, this was meant to happen. Like he was going to be a Knick at some point. We've been putting him in fake trade scenarios for a long time with the New York Knicks, and here we are.
For sure. And also, his true role is as a number 2 or number 3. So, on
a championship team for sure, probably a number 3 on a championship team, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's why it's like he wasn't, it's not that guy. He shouldn't be that guy, and he'll flourish a lot more back in his role where he is now behind. Well, we got to talk about the Knicks at some point, what they're going to do about Randall, but certainly behind Brunson, and I think the pecking order works a lot better for him there.
I think Knicks Nation is happy that they got Mikal Bridges without having to give up Randall.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll get to that in a second because the Randall thing, I think they need to do something because now there's too many players at that position. I don't think it works. So but the question is, does Randall have the kind of value they think he does? Can they get a first round pick for him? Can't they? You think?
Oh yeah, you can get a first, but I mean, you're going in the opposite direction of picks right now, right? Like you're trying to win now. I mean, I understand you want to get some of those picks back, but don't you want, like, if you are going to trade Randall, you'll probably try and get a great fit for what gives you a championship right now, right?
Yeah. So they can get maybe a couple players that are, that fit nicely in and around the margins, and then a pick. That would probably be something they'd want to do.
Everybody out there, send us a super chat with your trade ideas for Randall, and we'll
there you go. Do that. We'll put them up. And we'll do the ESPN trade machine with it too. All right. So we have our next super chat from a Euro Gupper. Thank you so much for the Euros. Really, really appreciate it. In the message is simply all caps: Thunder, Thunder, Thunder. So I guess he wants to talk about the Thunder. Well, we can quickly get into that because we had a trade with Giddey and Caruso, which I don't think we talked about.
Yeah, we did. We talked about that one.
Okay. So we talked about that one, which again, I think we were both very positive with, certainly with the OKC.
Right.
What else we have to talk about with the Thunder?
Hartenstein.
Oh, Hartenstein, for sure. All right, let's talk about that. So they paid him a lot of money. Okay, as far as I understood, the Knicks could only play him. They didn't have full bird rights; they had partial bird rights. They could only give him $16.5 million, something like that. I thought he'd get 21, right? I think that's what we were saying. He got 29 a year, basically. Wow. The
reporting. The high end was supposed to be 25, so good for him.
Good for him, but they're going to pay him money for a thing that is he going to start on the Thunder?
Yeah, he's a starting level championship player, in my opinion. Like he could do a lot. A lot. Yeah. So my worry then is with Chet seems to me in my mind the most advantage you have is when he's playing the 5. I feel like in the modern NBA, you like that connective piece at the 4. Obviously, he's so much more than a connective piece. He could pick and pop. The shooting does have to get better. Like he could create a little bit off the dribble. He's a rim protector, but he also is a facilitator, and Hartenstein is too. So I think at the 4, Chet is really nice.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly defensively, nobody's going to get an offensive rebound on them, and they're going to
Yeah.
block a lot of shots and really affect that. So
Mhm.
they really should be able to seal up the paint pretty well with that, with him in there. And I do like the notion that yes, Hartenstein does have some offensive skills. He really is a good passer. He's got a little floater. He can shoot from a little bit outside of just dunks, and that's
It feels
important
like
too.
It feels like he shoots 100% from floaters sometimes. I'm not even lying. Like sometimes I watch him play, it looks like he's not missing any of them. I'm sure
Right.
the numbers wouldn't relay that, but it just feels like that sometimes.
And it will also force Chet to be out on the perimeter even more
Right.
offensively, which it isn't bad. I mean, we'd like to see. Actually, I want to see how many times he averaged. He took 4 threes a game, made 37%. It would be nice to see that go up a couple per game, don't you think?
Yeah. Also, like with them losing Giddey, it kind of helps out with their aggregate playmaking, right? Like not necessarily from a certain position, but you just want more players on the floor that could read and react, right? Especially when you lose a player like Giddey, and Hartenstein is another guy like that. Like he can make the right reads.
For sure, for sure. So, well, are we gonna give you any problem for not pronouncing his name properly?
Probably, but like in our line of work, it's okay to be incorrect because it's almost a content strategy because people will correct you and it'll lead to more engagement. So it's
Wow.
okay.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. I pride myself on trying to nail. I was the guy who had Omar Ashik's name pronounced properly in my videos in the beginning because I went to people in Turkey and said, "How do you say this?" And they told me. So I want to make sure we get it right.
Yeah, I try my best, but you can't overthink it at the same time.
That's right. Whatever, you gotta let it flow. So thank you so much, Euro Gupper. We talked about that. We have some more. Okay, wow. Okay, here we go. Another one. More Euros. Thank you so much from Euro Gupper. I'm loving my Thunder now more than last season, and we are still under the luxury tax. Any quick prediction for Thunder's playoff run next year, Coach? Okay, so Hartenstein's out there. They no longer have the issue with Giddey. They've re-signed Isaiah Joe. They've re-signed Wiggins. So they're getting the band back together, and they should have pretty much what we saw. I think the biggest difference will be the experience that they gained from this last playoff run. That was important. I thought J-Dub needed that. I think he experienced went through some tough times to figure out what that's like in that situation. So he'll come back better. So as a result, what do we think? How far are they going to ultimately get?
Yeah, I mean, also they have more experience with Hartenstein and Caruso, and I also think like Giddey is a guy who probably still wants like to be an all-star, to still get some of the individual stuff. And these guys probably are more in win now mode in their mind, right? Like they're more all about the team. And I think it's a better fit in that regard. So I think having those two guys, not only them being great basketball players, they just fit what this team is in terms of chemistry and just being winning players.
Yeah. And hey, who knows? Maybe they sign Klay. Klay could play 16, 17 minutes a game for them, take about 4 or 5 threes a game.
I've said this. I've talked about this before. Definitely. Yeah. Klay would be a great fit there.
Yeah. And he's out there and he's available and they have some room. It sounds like. I haven't looked at the cap, but if you're saying that, then that's probably true. So they might be able to squeeze him in. I don't know. I worry that Klay might think his value is a lot higher than it is at this point. He did have games. I was talking to my buddy, Let's Go Warriors, earlier just now on text about it, where he did have games where we saw the old Klay, right? Every so often he'd reappear, but it's pretty damning what we saw, right? Like some of the misses that he had, the layups, the turnovers. It was really, really kind of troubling. And then certainly, he's not the defensive presence he used to be either. So, again, he could be 15, 16 minutes off the bench for a good team, and that's what he should be focusing on.
He had 2 back-to-back injuries. I understand it's been a while since then already. He's actually won a championship since then. And I feel like he can get to a level like I feel because we're like such a quick news cycle and we want to like jump to conclusions to say that he's washed. I mean, he's still an above average 2 guard. And I think he could get back, not all the way to Klay. He'll never be the defensive player he was, but I think he get like halfway in between what he is now and what he used to be offensively, not quite there. I think he could make a jump from what he was last year if he's in a different environment, in a different situation, and players that are looking to find him, coaches that are looking to put him in the right place.
Okay. My take will simply be like on a really good team that wants to do a deep run in the playoffs. 18 minutes a game is his sweet spot, and let him space the floor and do that. I think that would be the best version of him. Let's keep going. We got more super chats. Awesome. Thank you so much, Rich X Wolf. Really appreciate it, Rich. Can Steph win one more with the Dubs before it's over? And then he's got a lot of emojis of what's that emoji?
Looks
Yikes.
like you're about to cry. I don't know.
About to cry. Yeah. What word do you type in for that one? It's not yikes. It's probably like, oh no.
I guess you could put in that emoji in Google or ChatGPT and find out.
Yeah, something like that. But it's the one where we're on the verge of crying.
Right. You talk about this, and I'll find out what emotion that is.
Whatever. Now, but PG, I thought was the solution. I thought getting Paul George there would really fill in a lot of gaps they needed, and he'd be a nice fit there. So that's going out the window. So, hello, Zach LaVine, right? I guess that he's probably the next logical destination for the Warriors, wouldn't you say?
I was looking up that emoji. Well, Zach LaVine, they're saying has no trade value at this point. I don't know. That's what I'm hearing.
It's weird. The guy is a 25 a game scorer. He's an elite, athlete. Every once in a while, we see some ability to play some defense when he's, in the right, situation. So I would think he's got value. And, I think that obviously the Dubs need to do something because they lost Chris Paul. They're losing Klay Thompson. They want to move on from Wiggins, who also doesn't really have much value either, which is a problem. So, but I guess when you lay it out like that, Rich, you kind of get to the point where you're thinking I don't know if they can reload well enough to win a title. I mean, listen, they could be really competitive and Steph can still lift them, but they definitely need more, to kind of get them to absolute title contender status. But and it's possible. But I just worry that right now Paul George was a really great possibility for them. Anything else that's out there that could kickstart them back into the conversation?
Is the Klay thing over with them?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Jordan Lawley, tweeted on Instagram, said end of an era, and he's Klay's trainer. So that seems to me.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I by the way, no, I already think that I saw the reporting. There was so many tweets. I was actually out of pocket a little bit. I was hanging out at the pool, relaxing yesterday in the nice weather and for like all afternoon. So I totally got disconnected from all the Woj and Shams tweeting. But I think that there might have been a Klay one in there.
Okay.
That made it definitive.
Maybe somebody could pull it up for us. I mean, it's always the easy take to say that a team won't win another championship because there's so many good teams out there. But yeah, I mean, I think with the right free agent, Steph was pretty good for a lot of last year. I mean, he's still playing at a high level. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So Steph can do that, but obviously he needs something better. Wiggins has just been off and on, needing to take long stretches for mental health. It's just, and I feel for him, but when you're in a situation with Steph, he doesn't have that many more years left. You cannot have a player like that, getting you in turmoil. So they're going to want to move on from that and find someone steadier. Tobias Harris going to Detroit is interesting because it's almost like, oh, you know what? Maybe Tobias could have been an interesting fit there too. He can play a little defense. He can shoot when he's, in the flow of an offense. He's got a lot of experience, but he opted to go to Detroit instead, which is interesting as they are sort of still wrestling with tumultuousness. And, we can talk about that for a second with Bickerstaff going there. I don't think either of us thought he should have been fired from Cleveland, right?
Right. Yeah. I thought he did a pretty good job against the Celtics. They just had too many injuries.
Yeah. So then he jumps on the Detroit job, and I don't know. He might end up finding the Detroit job is not going to be what he thought it is either. But
what did he think? It's a total rebuild with a team that had like 29 losses in a row or something like that. So
that is true.
I mean, I think you got to know what you're getting into. Who knows? I mean, that might have more longevity than like a Lakers job. Who knows?
Maybe, although he might have been better off just kind of like maybe just sometimes when you get in a certain situation, in a certain age, you're like, I got to get the next job. Doesn't matter what it is. Like I can't afford to be out of the job and then like I lose relevance and all that stuff. But sometimes it also does pay to be a little bit more patient. So I don't know. I could see all those things, but obviously they must have done a big selling job because I would have been really wary of going to Detroit after what happened. They, hiring Monty and then just giving up on him so quickly and what their decisions made. But let's get to our next super chat. We have a bunch coming in here.
All right, so, I'm gonna put a t-shirt on real quick. I'll be right back. It's hot in here.
Okay, go ahead. JG on. Thank you so much, JG. Who goes to the bench, Hart, Caruso, or Dort? I'm so glad that you did this because I was going to bring it up, and then we can give you the love for bringing it up too because it was on my mind. So you have an interesting question here because does Hartenstein start? I suppose he does, only in the sense that he has to start because he's getting paid so much. But then it becomes a thing in terms of like what does it look like down the stretch, right? Because the starting thing is something, it's interesting, it's clout, it's whatever, but it's also what's going to happen down the stretch when the game is in the balance. But so the question is, because you could do something like SGA, J Dub. Who did I say? I have my thing on my. Oh God darn it all! I already wrote it out to text to somebody else. I was talking about this earlier. Okay, so you got J-Dub, SGA, and Chet. We know that, like in crunch time. So we're talking about like starting in crunch time for OKC in the lineups. You could do Dort and Caruso. You could kind of go small and let them just wreak havoc because Dort and Caruso defensively could just lock down everybody. Then you're throwing Chet out there, who can also really help protect the rim. So that's a really good lineup. Or then you can just go J-Dub, SGA, Chet, and then one of either Dort or Caruso, and then Hartenstein. So, I mean, you're kind of stuck in a interesting embarrassment of riches in a way. You have a lot of choices here. You can go a lot of different ways. So let's just say if Hartenstein starts, which it feels like he does, then that means either Dort or Caruso comes off the bench. I think it's Caruso. Who do you think?
Yeah, I would say Caruso. Also, Dort's been there, so you kind of want to keep that chemistry. And then I think they paid Hart that much so he could start, right, as the center and have Chet at the 4. So, yeah, I think that makes sense. And Caruso's really good off the bench. Like, I know he started with the Bulls, but I think he's a really nice fit off the bench. He brings energy on both sides of the floor.
And I think either one of those guys would be fine with, their role. Sometimes you might worry about certain players coming off the bench and how they handle that. I would think that both of those guys would be fine with it, especially if they're winning. So, but yeah, I would be surprised if it wasn't Caruso coming off the bench. And then you got Hart, Dort, J-Dub, SGA, and Chet. That's a really good lineup. Plus, they got Isaiah Joe coming off the bench. They got Wiggins coming off the bench. So it's a nice team. They got a nice team that's been developing it properly, and they're ready. So do we actually end up answering the other question about how far they're going to go? I don't think we did. So what do we think they're going to get to? They got to the second round and lost to the Mavericks.
I mean, they were legit title contenders this year. I think they get better. Right.
I mean, yeah, okay. I think that they showed they weren't quite ready for that, and that's fine. But I think having now done what they did, they are now ready for it. So they're title contenders for sure now, and what they've done. Caruso and Hartenstein are big additions.
And also,
yeah,
and Jalen Williams and Chet are only going to get better this year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, hopefully they all get better. You imagine even the other Jalen Williams will get better too, and get them some decent. Like he can now as a third center get them some decent minutes. He pretty much had third center minutes anyway, so we'll see how that works. But again, if he's your third center behind the other two, you're in good shape. So I would say conference finals is a minimum for them next year. That should be their goal and their expectation. I don't know if they get to the finals next year, but I would say conference finals this year, and then maybe the finals next year.
I think they could win it all.
Okay. I don't know.
SGA was like low key the best player in the playoffs.
Yeah, I guess. You're talking about like the box score production.
Yeah, like just eye test and numbers.
Yeah,
and then like the two-way side of it, right?
Right.
Like Luka. I mean, at times he was better than him offensively. Jason Tatum was up and down during the playoffs. I know Brown won Finals MVP, but his numbers weren't like SGA.
No, you're right.
So,
you're right.
I mean, I think SGA was probably the playoffs' best performer. Like he was solid all the way through. He's just sometimes we forget about it when team success doesn't go as far as you might want it to.
For sure. Well, let's get some best friend of the breakdown. Bron, great to see you from Canada. Thank you so much. Always great to see you. Better fit for Klay, Mavs or Lakers? So the Lakers are coming up because that's where Klay has roots here. Or the Mavs. And the Mavs just lost Derek Jones Jr., but they also picked up Najee
Muhammad.
No, Najee Muhammad. No, who did they pick up? God damn it, wait, is it Muhammad? Let's see. Who did they pick up? Why is it not on my damn list? Mavericks. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Najee Marshall. My goodness, Najee Marshall. I knew that. Yes. So they replaced a guy, Derek Jones Jr. with another guy who's a really good defender and has length and has size. So that we might not notice the difference, right? We've secretly replaced Combo's coffee with Instant. I don't know if let's see if he notices. I don't know. I think the Mavericks end up that might be a better trade off. I got to go through Najee Marshall's offensive game a little bit more in my head to kind of figure out how much of an upgrader that is over Jones. Do you have a feeling for that?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'm gonna have to do. I don't want to speak out of turn. I want to do a deeper dive on that to see what my real thoughts are. But and it's not even worth going like, the numbers are the numbers right now, the box score. I got to look at that so I get a better handle on, how he fit. But so let's get back to that. So Klay, is it a better fit to go to the Lakers or the Mavericks? The Lakers are really interesting. I mean, they could use some shooting anyway. Do they need another old star that's kind of on the end of his career here?
Yeah, I think he could help them. They need shooting. I mean, they also need defense, which he's not as good anymore. But
right,
I think he'll actually get probably more open shots with the Lakers than actually. Who knows with Kyrie? Who's a better fit? Who would you rather play with? Who's the duo you rather play with is a better question, right? Kyrie and Luka or AD and LeBron? If you were Klay Thompson,
probably I would probably think. Luka?
You know what? I like all those players. It doesn't seem that fun to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, the Lakers don't seem fun. The
Lakers
seem like a hard slog.
I think OKC is the answer here, to be honest. Even though it's not an option.
But that's not an option. Bron did not give us that option. So if we had to choose, I think we had to go Mavs. Well, look at it this way. If he wants to win another title, which I think it's probably on his, that's his main goal. That's why he's continued to play throughout all these injuries. Then the Mavs are the no-brainer, right? The Mavs are closer to getting a title than the Lakers are, right? I think that's by far.
Oh, I don't think that's by far.
I don't know. Listen. The LeBron and AD played a lot of games. Like they maybe they're not as good as we all think that they are at this point.
Or maybe we're just maybe we're holding on to that bubble chip, right? We're holding on to tight.
Right.
It was a while ago already.
Now, is it possible that Darvin Ham's lineups were so problematic that it really hindered their winning, bottom line winning and their seeding in the playoffs? Okay, but how much could it really have cost them 15 wins or whatever? How many wins did they have? The Lakers have. They won 47 games. Did it cost them 7 or 8 games? Like I don't know. That seems a bit high in my mind.
Yeah.
Their offensive rating was 15th in the league and their defense was 19th. It's like, now again, would that have gotten cleaned up and will JJ get in there and get the analytics going and figure out better lineups? Probably, right? Or do we find out that maybe he doesn't have as much control over the lineups as we all think?
Oh, he does. What? LeBron?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he has control. I mean, look, LeBron gets what he wants.
He certainly does.
There's proof in the pudding. There's proof in the pudding. He got his podcast partner as the head coach.
That's not even the headline.
Yeah, it's not even the headline. I'm trying to get to it. He got his great friend AD in. They won a championship together. They're talking about CP3 to the Lakers a little bit. That didn't happen yet. And then he got his son on the team. Yeah. So I mean, LeBron gets what he wants, and that's only a few examples. There's even more examples than that. And love it or hate it, I'm not saying this positively or negatively. Like he gets what he wants, and I'm sure it's like that with lineups and roster spots and everything else.
For sure. Yeah. But like,
do you feel that's part of the reason him in Miami didn't work out because Pat Riley wasn't having that part of it?
It was definitely part of it. Yeah. I mean, listen, that's the devil, the deal you're making when you bring him in is that he's going to have a lot of institutional control over the franchise. It's led to titles, it's led to finals appearances and all that stuff. So that's all great. And plus you'll have a guy on the team in LeBron who is, a very upstanding member of society, right? Like just a good person and, and all that stuff is important. You're not going to have like terrible scandals or anything like that. Like that's part of the importance of having that. Now, if you want to talk about Bronny, like I did the video, if you go watch it, I went to the USC UCLA game and we discussed this a couple of times already, but the 55th pick doesn't yield much traditionally in the cross historically. And so I don't have a problem necessarily with them taking him there. Is it a little bit heavy-handed that they told everybody else don't draft him or else he'll send him to Australia, whatever? I mean, maybe.
This goes on all the time with agents and teams and players, and but obviously this got publicized because Bob Meyer said something. But I mean, you could infer this was happening anyway, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. That's
well, the Australia thing was like a specific thing, which was kind of interesting. Like he's going to go play. That probably was an option for him. That would have been interesting to actually see him play, but I guess he'll actually play in the G League too. So
right. So I'm sure he'll go up and down and they'll be able to develop him. Because the thing was, like, what is this for? Is this for LeBron or is it for Bronny? Like, who is making the decision and who's in the best interest? Because part of me thought, well, you know what, Bronny should go back to college. He needs another year to like get seasoned. But then when I thought about it and then that to me it's like, oh, it's just for LeBron, his ego, whatever. But then when you think about the general state of individual player development in the college level, it sucks for the most part. There's very few programs that really understand how to develop players like that and who aren't like blinded by this notion of winning in college, because a lot of these coaches will say, I'm here to win, not produce NBA players. But like we talked about this, those two things should be able to go hand in hand, right?
Yeah,
you want to improve your players and give them more skill.
Better players, better teams.
Okay. So, if he gets out of there and is now doesn't have to deal with going to class, if he was even going to class, I don't know. But like instead of dealing with the whole academic side and the college thing and the limits to how many hours you can work out and all that stuff, now he gets to have professional training all day long, without any other distractions. So you know what? That is better for Bronny, because that's what he needs for sure. And if he gets a lot of experience in the G League first to kind of get his feet wet, that's even better. I told you his situation in USC was rough. He had a heart attack and missed the first 2 months of the season as a freshman. Then he's got to play behind Boogie Ellis, who's a fifth-year senior who's going to dominate the ball no matter what. It was never a situation where he was going to be able to show out. But I feel like there's just enough pieces of evidence there of him doing a pro move and finding success that I feel like there is something there for Bronny. I think Bronny might be able to figure out a way where he could be, an NBA player.
Yeah, I think so too. I've always said that. I mean, he has like solid shooting ability. He has really good athleticism. He has a good motor on both sides of the floor. He defends. I think he could be a role player in the NBA. But who knows what's best for Bronny at the end of the day? Like, Bronny should do what Bronny wants to do. And then obviously Bronny might have opportunities that other people don't. And that's the way life works. And, he got this opportunity with the Lakers. Good for him. I hope he makes the best of it. And, look, if Bronny gets a couple some playing time with the Lakers just so they can have that candid moment, the photos, the video of them playing together, that'd be great. And then what if they win a championship this year with that? I mean, this will be a 30 for 30.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. And listen, LeBron as a father and as a person, like, and how much success he's had in the league and what he meant, like, does he deserve a little of this? Like, okay, yeah, maybe. Like, let's throw him a bone and let him have those a couple of those moments. He didn't grow up with a father, and he's being the father he never had, and all those things. That those are nice moments, you know what I mean, to have. And if it doesn't ultimately affect the bottom line of the Lakers trying to do something to build a championship team, then great. That's the only question I think people might be worried about is, are you putting yourself in a situation where you're not going to be able to win as well, or the best situation to win? But I don't. Again, the 55th pick I think was a crapshoot at best of times. So it was final. It wasn't such a terrible idea to use it on him. I suppose they could have maybe just waited for him 5 more picks. I don't think anyone would have drafted him anyway and then signed him as a free agent. But whatever.
You know what nobody's talking about? I want to hear your thoughts on this, Coach Nick.
What?
So they basically gave LeBron a take it or leave it deal. And do you think that has something to do with LeBron? I mean, with Bronny, like, look, we have your son. Now you could take this deal or leave it. I mean, what are you going to do? Leave?
Right.
No, we have your son here.
That's why, so Simmons was trying to tell the Celtics to draft him and then you hold him around. Right?
But nobody's talking about it from the Lakers side of things.
Yeah, I mean, take it or leave it, or was it more like, come on, we did this for you, and we want to be able to sign another free agent for you, so you need to do this.
No, but that was the reporting I heard around the LeBron deal. I mean, I didn't hear anything about the connection to Bronny thing, but I heard this is what you could have, and take it or leave it.
Yeah, I mean, there really wasn't too much other choice if LeBron does want to try and make another run at the championship, right? He couldn't have. So remind me, what was the deal? Did he end up taking less, LeBron, than his max or whatever?
Well, no, they're planning on doing that. I don't think he did it yet.
Right. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the whole point.
He said he'll take a pay. So here's what I understand. He could take a pay cut, but for them to have enough room to get Klay, he would, without trading like a D'Lo or something, he would have to take a tremendous pay cut, or they could make some kind of trade to free up space for Klay. But for a smaller pay cut, they won't be able to get Klay.
I would trade D'Lo. I think he's a bit. There are moments, but there are also enough moments in my mind as a coach where I would say you don't want it's too inconsistent. He's a ceiling on your team, so I would trade you. I don't know if D'Lo has a ton of value, right? But if he has any, I would do it, just like I would trade Randall as well. All right, we got some more super chats to get to. So we have Manchi. Thank you so much, Manchi. The question here is thoughts: Steph, CJ McCollum, Jonathan Kuminga, Draymond, and Jared Allen. So somehow, I suppose maybe he's thinking that CJ is going to leave because they just signed DeJounte Murray.
CJ is going to leave because why? What? But it's like I'm just talking from a basketball standpoint. I don't see the redundancy.
You don't?
No. CJ's.
By the way, I don't think Murray moves the needle for them anyway.
Yeah. I mean, there are some things that are like not that modern about DeJounte's game. I don't know, but I feel like CJ's more of a professional scorer, and DeJounte's more of like a point guard. A point guard type player who's a defender.
Okay, I'll have to see it before I.
So what is DeJounte? He's a professional scorer, you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think he's a guy who he might be a ceiling guy too. Kind of puts a ceiling on a team.
CJ is a 3-level pro scorer.
Yeah.
Like that guy could score, man.
Yeah. So, but to get back to Nancy's question, then, as far as I suppose he's somehow CJ gets to the Warriors is what he's saying. What our thoughts are on that, and also Jared Allen. I'm unaware of Jared Allen being available. Why am I not aware of this? Or is he just sort of making up a potential? All right, let's just do it as it's theoretical then. So Steph and CJ, it's an interesting backcourt. There's the defensive issues, obviously, there, which is pretty severe. Kuminga, Draymond, and Jared Allen. So Jared Allen and Draymond could help that, right? They'll be under constant attack, but they could try. And then Kuminga, if he continues to develop, which I imagine he will. I don't know. Is that a title contending team?
It is. If Jonathan Kuminga could be like an all-NBA player, like could take some kind of crazy leap, then yeah. But besides that, no. No.
The spacing isn't even great, right? Steph and CJ space it. Kuminga, not necessarily.
Yeah, that is true.
So now you got Dre and Jared Allen in the lineup. So I don't think that's what they want.
And then it's like a turnstile from a point of attack defense standpoint.
Yeah, which maybe they can handle with Allen and Dre out back there, but yeah. I got some thoughts, by the way. Yeah.
And CJ's not like prime CJ right now, I feel like. Even though he had some flashes in the playoffs where he played well, but
yeah, I think he got a little dinged up, and maybe he'll be healthy going into next year, and then we'll get back to seeing that. So I don't know. I don't think that works so well, but it's funny. I had a quick thought. I've been going through all the Bulls games, the Jordan 88 stuff. Did we talk about it last time? I can't remember.
You told me that you were going to do that.
Yeah, so I'm halfway through. One thing that makes defense easier back then. Did we talk about this? Because this is interesting. I'll make a good point of this in the video when it's done. So often when you were guarding a guy on the wing back then, there's a post-up player behind you posting up almost every possession. So it was almost easier to guard the ball on the wing because you knew there was no possibility of him trying to blow by you to go drive for the basket because there's a teammate of his standing there already. Because the spacing was so bad back then where they constantly were trying to either duck in on the weak side or post up on the strong side. You had two bigs generally on both blocks. So it's almost like it was easier for Michael and all those guys to defend the perimeter because, you don't have to worry about it. And you'd see him kind of like sort of hands up, whatever, not really have to be in a stance. It was crazy to wrap my head around.
Say that one more time.
So if I'm guarding you on the wing and I know behind me is a guy posting up, I know you're not going to. There's nowhere for you to go to try and blow by me on a drive. Right, so it changes the way I play defense.
But MJ used to drive with the post player there and just jump around them.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Hardly anybody else. And also, if it was the first pass to the wing, you pretty much were guaranteed he wasn't going to shoot. It was just they're going to run offense. They're going to pass the ball a little bit
because that was considered a bad shot.
Right, even though it might have been open, and you take the best open shot you can right away. No, they wouldn't. Certainly, if it was a 3, they wouldn't let you take a first pass.
It's crazy how philosophy changed. Now it's conventional wisdom in the NBA. Like a quicker shot is usually your better shot. Like if you pass open an open shot, usually you won't even get a better one after that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So imagine that. Imagine if I understood that intrinsically, I'd be like, fine, I barely have to guard the guy when he catches the ball in that first touch. And so, the whole defensive thing is much harder, I would argue, now because of the spacing. And I think we could all agree on that, especially because they talk about, because you can't hand check, right? And you can't be as physical as you used to be back then. So that makes it harder also. But I got to tell you, just the way the game was played, I believe, made it a lot easier for defenders. playing the guarding the
I
ball.
feel like during the playoffs this season, the hand check was back a little bit.
Yeah.
Am I bugging out, Coach Nick? Did I see that?
There's a little notion of hand on the waist still. It never really went away. Like handshaking never really went away.
I mean, it's not Derek Harper style now, though. He was doing it like the whole way up the court.
Yeah. We actually got to go back and really study some of that.
No, Derek Harper was like he might be the GOAT hand checker. If you remember him from the New York Knicks, he used to do it all the way up and down the court. He was a good player.
I remember it from the Mavericks, man. Like
that's right.
Prime.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was a better scorer then, right?
Yeah, he was actually pretty good at that. By the time he got to the Knicks, he was kind of washed. But
I guess he had to hand check at that point, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. It was. By the way, it's funny. There was a huge fight during the Knicks Bulls 91 or 92 or something like that, and it spilled out right in front of David Stern in the audience. I was right there too, but it wasn't. Well, actually, it was Harper. Well, Harper was involved in one of those. I can remember that, and it was definitely like I think it was pressuring the ball in the backcourt up and down, whatever, and doing something. They lost their. And
I remember Pippen and Magic Johnson. He was kind of like controlling Magic with the hand check, right? Going full court in that 91 finals.
Yeah, he was cutting him off. I don't even think he needed to hand check him. I think he was
bumping him though. He was being physical.
Bumping, but not hand checking, which is great, like chest open, whatever.
I mean, he might be like low key the best defender ever. Scottie Pippen. Yeah.
At his prime, absolutely. There was very few.
Yeah.
But that said, well, I'm not going to spoil the MJ defensive video, but we'll get to it. But let me just tell you, there's a lot of clips to show.
Here's a good question. Oh, well, first of all, let's put a bow on that. We don't believe that'll work, right, Coach Nick?
Yeah.
So here's my question to you. Okay. So who was a better defender in their prime, Pippen or Jordan?
I probably would say Pippen only because Pippen had extra length.
Okay.
That just it's unfair to Jordan, but it was Pippen had, he was legit like 6'8" with really long wingspan.
I think I got a good way to put it and see if you agree with me. Pippen was a more versatile defender, but Jordan caused more chaos on defense.
Yeah, without question. Jordan actually had the kind of effect on the offense that Rudy does in this season, really? Because he's trying to constantly come over and contest shots at the rim. With his athletic ability. Right. So if you were going to go up, you needed to be really wary of where he was because he was going to swipe at it or he'd be up in the air trying to contest and block it. So in that same way as Rudy had that effect, he was causing that kind of havoc too, which Scottie didn't ever really do that like that, but he did a little bit. But Scottie had his hands full because he was guarding a position that night in and night out was the most difficult one to guard for all those years at the small forward position.
You know who I saw cook him though?
Who?
Grant Hill.
Oh yeah, well, listen, Grant Hill cooked everybody in Michael.
Oh too. My God, his first step.
If he wasn't guarding Grant Hill, he had to guard Larry Bird or Adrian Dantley or Dominique Wilkins or Dr. J or I mean, the list goes on and on. Who he had to deal with every night. There was never
Clyde. He probably switched on Clyde, even though Clyde was playing the two, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, that was tough. But all the Cliff Robinson was really hard to guard. I mean, all those guys.
Sean Kemp, maybe.
Sean Kemp, although I feel like he was more of the power forward, but
he was.
I'm sure he guarded him without question. So.
You know what's crazy? I didn't realize Sean Kemp was 6'11".
Yeah. Sean Kemp, by the way, is trying to throw Frank Bukowski under the bus and say that Rodman drove him crazy in the 96 finals. That is true. Bukowski kept getting technicals in my memory. I was at those games, and he was losing his mind, but so was Sean Kemp. So part of me feels like he's bringing that up so he can kind of obscure the fact that Sean Kemp was muttering to himself as well. He was Rodman made him insane as much as Bukowski. So let's not. We'll have to do.
So wait, he's trying to say that Jordan didn't beat that, right? That Rodman did. Yeah,
that too. I mean, that's just nonsense as well. I mean, Jordan was great in that series. It was a good series too. It was a really kind of an interesting, weird thing.
That's where the meme comes from of Jordan laughing, right? It was about Gary Payton, I think. Like, because they showed there's a meme of like Michael Jordan on the iPad, like laughing hard.
You mean during the last dance?
It's like a GIF. Yeah, it's like a meme of Jordan.
Yeah,
laughing.
I thought that was like the Isaiah stuff. Is it?
No. I thought it was Gary Payton saying like, "Oh, I could guard him" or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, there's a reason. There might be a better reason why Gary Payton didn't guard Michael for the first several games. And by the way, Hersey Hawkins was really good. So there's that wasn't a terrible decision to put Hersey Hawkins on him.
Hersey Hawkins could shoot, right? He was a good shooter.
Oh my God, He deserves a video. That guy was insane.
He played with the Sixers, right? A little bit.
Yeah, and then he ended up with the Sonics, and he played at Bradley. He was unbelievable in college. I think he averaged 37 a game and was shooting threes all over the place. All right, let's get to our next super chat. Eurocupper, thank you so much, Eurocupper. He's back. Really, really appreciate it. In my humble opinion, Klay to OKC does not match up with them paying Isaiah Joe and Wiggins. Interesting point. Klay should go to a team where he can shoot open shots and not have to move on defense too much. Lakers and Mavs are thumbs up. Well, why wouldn't he have to? What makes a team allow him to not have to move on defense too much? I suppose maybe like a guy like Gobert on the team, right? Maybe you don't have to move as much because you have him back there. I don't know. Otherwise, you're moving a lot. Either way.
I mean, like with teams that like the Celtics, who are everybody's shooting 40% from three, you're going to be running all over the pace, chasing down shooters, right? Like you're going to have to move your feet. And then obviously that's the most dangerous position, that wing position. You're going to be playing against a lot of talented and crafty players. It's not like
unless you're going to play the center, otherwise,
exactly. Like maybe, like as much as I love Hartenstein, maybe if you play Hartenstein, you don't have to be able to side your feet that crazily, right? Like if you're going to be on him most of the game, but Klay's going to be guarding wings, so
there's nowhere to hide. That's why you got to limit the minutes, and hope he just nails a nice percentage of threes, and then he'll be good, and it can help. So that's the reason. But I bet you it'll be the Lakers. I bet you that'll be the thing that they want to have happen, and then they'll try and make it happen. And again, part of the reason is because Klay, I don't think it's going to have a ton of suitors. I think his value is, the question is we have to wonder what value Klay thinks he has, which it reminds me of Russell Westbrook. So the report comes out, and I think maybe it was leaked by West's camp. He's leaving the Clippers. He wants to go become a free agent, right? And I think they spent about 30 hours looking around and getting a handle on what his value was, and then he quickly opted back in because I think he realized very quickly that he was not worth what he thought he was, and that he better take the player option, or else he'll get a huge pay cut. So I thought that was kind of interesting to see that unfold over the course of a day and a half.
Yeah, I don't know which team would be a good suitor for him.
Russ, I mean, listen, it was rough. They had to cut his minutes to like 20 minutes a game because
trying to
get like
Harden came in. That's when they cut his minutes. When Harden came in, right?
No, I feel like they cut it even before that, very briefly before that. But I might not be off. But either way, it's a bitter pill to swallow for a guy like Russ to say, well, I can only play. But they had to do that because if they played him longer, the mistakes would come out a lot more, and it was a real problem for a team that wanted to compete for a title. So, all right, let's get to our next super chat. Alan Tran, thank you so much, Alan. Great to see you. Depressed Golden State Warriors fan here. I'm sorry. It'll be okay. The only move that makes sense anymore is Draymond, Looney, and a pick for Ingram. New Orleans needs a center core, and both teams win. Interesting. What do you think about that? I mean, Draymond, Looney, and a pick for Ingram. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know how that how does that make Golden State a legit contender or better than they were?
I don't know. I mean, I don't see why that has enough value to get.
And then on top of that, I don't think that makes New Orleans better, right?
Yeah, I mean, Looney probably is gotten his better days. I don't think we're going to see him be the guy he used to be. And Draymond, maybe not either, right? I mean, maybe he can come back for the back issues.
As I said, like Draymond, well, now with Klay gone, and Klay, he wasn't the same anyway. Like Draymond has more value to the Warriors than any other team. It's just like that was like a perfect fit with like Steph and Klay, and just the way he could initiate offense, and those guys could play off the ball a little bit, and then obviously Steph could play on the ball a little bit, and then defensively he used to clean up what they do. So that was like a perfect symbiosis. Is symbiosis the right word? Symbiosis?
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, good word.
Symbiosis.
Now, the thing with New Orleans is they just lost Valanciunas, who signed with the Wizards of all teams. So now they're a little bit, thin in the center department.
Him and Tobias could get buckets on their respective bad teams. So
right,
they could go.
Now that said, I never really loved Valanciunas' fit on the New Orleans Pelicans anyway, right? It feels like they would be benefiting from, and you could say that Valanciunas is a stretch five because he does shoot threes, but I just think physically and movement wise, they probably want to get someone a little bit longer and
he's like the old stretch five. He's not the new stretch five.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because that shot takes a long time to get off. And even if you want to shot fake and then drive, they'd be better off maybe trying to go small a little bit more. I mean, the Zion at center thing probably has been proven statistically to be a bad idea, but maybe they can squeeze a little bit more out of that now and go.
Point Zion seems to be a good thing, right?
Point Zion is a good thing for sure. And you know what? Point center Zion, maybe that would work eventually because they'll just score so many points that it doesn't matter.
He could be like their Chris Webber.
Yeah, Weber was better as a passer though, even better than that.
Zion's underrated as a passer. Actually, he got good feel for basketball.
Yeah, he does. But I'm underrating him, I guess then. But
I mean, Chris
was like,
Chris. Like when we make comparisons, I'm not saying he's as good as Chris Webber. I'm just saying, the point center thing was real with him, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Vlade was with him, so I don't know if he's point center more than point forward. But
gotcha. Okay.
But that high post action they ran with Pete Carrill, the Princeton concepts was great. But interestingly enough, by the way, in '88, when Doug Collins was coaching and Phil Jackson was on the bench next to him, Tex Winter was there but was banished. You don't see him on the bench because he tried to give Doug Collins, notes during practice, and Doug Collins was so offended by that, even though it was sort of what Tex was there for. He banished him, but as a result, you still see it. You still can see triangle offense in their offense.
Say that one more time. Why was he?
So
banished?
Tex Winter, comes in as like an emeritus, as a wise old coach. And at some point, like Doug Collins was threatened or whatever, he didn't want to, I don't think he understood that Tex was a resource for him. He should have been listening to Tex as much as he could have. Instead, he probably got defensive. So he banished. Tex was not on the bench during games. But Tex, to his credit, just put his head down and continued doing his work. That said, if you watch the offense in '88, well before they went to the pure triangle, they were running Texas concepts. There were options you saw that were looking a little bit more and more like a triangle.
So he didn't let Tex on the bench, but still took his concepts.
Like somehow, yeah. Now, maybe in the very beginning of the year before it really fell apart, he was like, oh, I like that. That's good. We'll use some of that, right? So they kind of got it installed. And then when it fell apart with Tex, personally, whatever, there was no reason to not use the offense. But again, it was very, very strange. And I think that, we realized how important Tex was just because whenever other teams tried to run the pure triangle after the initial Bulls runs, they never could do it well. And part of the reason is because they did not have Tex Winter. He was the real glue in terms of teaching it and made it work. And full disclosure, a mentor of mine, a friend of mine, somebody I spent a lot of time with. So, but that allows me, I believe, to recognize how valuable he was. And so, as a coach, you got to be ready to listen and recognize the wisdom from.
So you worked with Tex?
I worked with Tex. I hung out with Tex a lot.
Okay.
So
cool.
we pulled apart the triangle a lot, and he helped me understand better how to teach it. For instance, if I were to go in there and teach it, I truly believe, because I could kind of mimic a lot of what Tex did because we spent so much time together. I could probably mimic some of that magic that Tex used that other coaches might not have in their NBA stints trying to run it.
What was your biggest lesson learned from Tex?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I think maybe it was probably the attention to detail is really what you get a lot when you're watching. He could detect every little angle of the foot and every little the angle of the pass and the movement and the timing so well. It's not easy, right? It's chaotic. 5-on-5, people are running around everywhere, right? But he could cut through that and see the things they needed to see and help correct those in a good way. You
think Kobe worked with Tex, right?
Yeah, he was.
I wonder if some of that detail was because he was really detailed in those obviously he was like that before the videos detail, which he is his think pieces on video. I think he did it for ESPN, but he was really detailed with the angle of the foot, everything.
Yeah, I'm sure part of it wore off, but also what didn't wear off is Kobe never liked the triangle, didn't want to run it because he felt too,
constricted,
limited. Yeah, and that drove me nuts because it was like, how many championships are you going to win before you realize this is something you should run? Now that said, he realized it after Phil left the first time, and they brought him back, so that was good. But then it didn't take because when Phil left again, and then Mike Brown comes in. I know, Kobe didn't want to run a lot of the Princeton stuff, which is basically the triangle, and that's a problem. So, all right, let's get to our next super chat here.
Kobe was an artist, though. He probably didn't want to be structured.
And sorry for the delay. We got caught up in a couple of questions and talking, but Teddy, thank you so much. Really, really generous super chat. Really, really appreciate it. Is Portland committed to both Scoot and Simons? If not, can a team potentially appeal both Simons and Grant from Portland? Grant's contract doesn't really align with their rebuild. Grant is now up, he's on the list of everyone. I think the Lakers are trying to get him right now. So I would anticipate Grant is gone for sure. He doesn't fit with their timeline. But Scoot and Simons, to me, their timelines are pretty compatible, right?
Yeah, I think you definitely want to stick with Simons. Scoot is too early in his contract to really move off of him, right? And then obviously he didn't have a great season, so
Right.
I don't know how much value he has at this point. But
I think Scoot started to figure some things out toward the end of the season, right? He started to figure some things.
I agree with you. I think he figured some things out. The naysayers said those weren't competitive games at the end.
Whatever it takes, whatever it takes to get you more comfortable and feeling more confident, where you can then use your skills. So but again, the jury's out. We need to have another half season of Scoot before we can see what we got.
You probably need another full season, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking like we got to see some improvement right away. Like there's got to be development period, which there should be, because I'm sure he's working really hard right now, and he has the whole year under his belt. So I would think in the first 6 months we're going to start seeing some better decisions and some better finishing and all that stuff. I think he'll be certainly that'll be the test. If we don't see that, then I'll be concerned.
Okay.
But let's see. So we know Grant doesn't line, so that he's gone. They're going to get something for him. But yeah, I think that nothing's going to change between them. They're going to keep both those guys for now, for sure. Let's see here. What's our next one? Let's go here. So Eurocupper, my goodness, Eurocupper is just back and forth. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Pelicans need to keep Ingram, Zion, McCollum, Murray for 2 seasons and see what they can do together. They could sign a cheap center, just like the Warriors used to do when they won championships. Okay, a cheap center. Are they going to get like Jackson Hayes back?
Oh, he could be pretty good. I think he got some potential to be.
I think so too. I think he started to show us right with the Lakers toward the end there. He's finding some vertical spacing stuff.
He's an athlete.
Yeah, he really is. He's fast. Yeah. He can get up off the ground. Yeah. So he deserves a shot at getting a serious 20, 22 minutes a game somewhere, really play. I think that was tough on him because he would be in and out of the lineups. I think that Lakers lineups were really troubled, with the Darvin Ham thing for whatever reason. I suppose if you're going to point to the one thing that Darvin Ham seemed to struggle with is the lineups. He couldn't seem to figure out who to play with who. And it was weird because you thought maybe he'd kind of gotten that under control going to the conference finals the year before.
You said Darvin Ham?
I'm talking about the Lakers. Yeah. Jackson Hayes,
okay.
Darvin Ham.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good point too. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I don't even know where I am on Ingram anymore.
Oh, do you feel like it's like the CJ thing where you say it kind of limits you because of fit? I mean, obviously he's a better player. He's supposed to be a franchise guy, so it's different than CJ.
But I don't know if Ingram is I know he scored 25 a game. He's gotten to that point. But
he just had a down year a little bit. That Olympics thing was weird where he stopped getting playing time and it kind of bled into the season.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But listen, Ingram, Zion, McCollum, Murray. Let's not forget Trey Murphy off the bench.
Maybe they could start Trey Murphy.
Because he's tall. He's got length. You want to go small?
I would bring
McCollum
off the bench to be your bucket getter.
Yeah, then I guess who's going to start at the start Alvarado? I know that's interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe Alvarado and Murray in the backcourt. Interesting. But I don't know. That would be crazy. But you know what? They're crazy. At some point in the future, it does feel like Trey Murphy. Yeah, maybe he would be like a 5 because he could stretch the floor. He can, he's long.
I think he could be anything from a 3 to a 5 or even a 2 to a 5.
Yeah. All right. So good point. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. Andrew Zoo, best friend of the breakdown. Great to see you, Andrew, as always, and really, really generous with your super chat. Thank you so much. Russ to the Nuggets in the Bruce Brown role. Oh, I don't know about that. As a W's fan, stay put to see how JK grows, Kaminga grows. Jaylen Brown upside and showed value of high tier versatile wings. No trades make the Warriors legit. Start Moody, TJ. Yes, TJD and C. Okay, so it feels like he doesn't want the Warriors to do anything.
I was saying Russ should play the Bruce Brown role way back when he went to the Lakers. All right. I don't know. It's just interesting that that was my thing. That was something I was always talking about. And people thought I was crazy because it was Russ. He was like an MVP, and it was a little bit closer to his prime a few years back. But I used to say that. I thought that was his ideal role.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting because Bruce Brown's role. And his role changed too, where it wasn't like it was in Denver so much.
This was a little bit of a weird season for him.
Yeah. So maybe I just don't know. I don't know. I don't think Russ fits in at all with that. He doesn't move off the
Well,
ball.
Bruce Brown also shoots, catch, and shoot better than Russ, which helps a lot too.
Yeah, and he doesn't move. Bruce Brown could cut and move, and you have to if you're going to play alongside Jokic. So I don't think that works at all. But maybe they might feel like they have to do that because they lost KCP. That's a big blow, by the way. KCP not staying is big. You know what I mean?
Yeah, where's he going?
He went to, God darn it all. KCP went to Orlando. Okay, we can talk about that as we wrap up. So Orlando needs shooting. They bring in a guy who's got a championship pedigree ×2 and can shoot the ball, can play defense. Was probably the third best player on that first title team on the Lakers that he was on. I love that pickup for Orlando.
Yeah. I mean, Klay was a guy they were talking about, so I think KCP makes sense there too. They definitely need shooting. I've been saying this for a long time. That's a team that needs shooting. Their defense always been pretty good, so that fits in with Jamal Mosley's defensive strategy because they've been a good defensive team. And this really depends on they actually need even more shooting, and they need their current players to develop more as shooters. It's not like you could just bring in KCP and everything's fixed, as an aggregate, they need to become better shooters, that team.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how this is going to play out. Lots of things are going to change. I bet you the next time I talk to you, we'll have a lot of things to talk about. I would imagine some trades or stuff like that might be happening. Summer League's going to start soon, so that's when they all start talking to each other. Are you going to Summer League?
I am.
Oh, okay. Well, enjoy. The wife made the second year in a row made plans during Summer League.
Summer League is long though. You're gone for the whole thing.
When it starts later than normal, right?
I'll be there from the 14th to the 17th, but I think it's 10th to the 20th or something. I don't know.
Right. It usually starts the 5th, right after the 4th of July, but it sounds like there's a delay. Maybe I can sneak up there and hang out for a little bit. We'll see.
That'd be cool. Next Monday, are you here?
No. Okay, that's the other question. So we'll talk about it. I'm out of town. I don't think I can do a show. So we'll talk about it. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
All right. Well, anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for the super chats and just being part of the great conversation. Great crowd tonight. Great conversation. Combo, as always. Great to see you. Anything else you need to plug before we go?
Combos Court, wherever you listen to podcasts. Instagram, 12combo, ONETWOCOMBO. And catch me on the B-Ball Breakdown live show. So a lot of the B-Ball Breakdown live show fans in New York City this weekend. And really, Coach Nick, I really appreciate you always having me on on your platform. We've been doing this a long time, and I'm actually seeing it's not all about numbers, but I'm actually seeing the numbers grow with our live show, and it's been really fun for me, and I can't wait to continue throughout the course of the offseason and the season.
Love it. Absolutely. Again, right. A pleasure to have you on here and be part of the show. It's grown that way for this. And I'm excited for what we're going to keep doing and how what's going to happen the rest of the summer. So hopefully I'll get out there and see if we can hang out in Vegas, but we'll see.
Maybe record a show out there. Find a way to record a live show out there.
All right. We can figure something out. We'll see. We'll see. Anyhow. All right. Well, anyway, thank you everybody out there. Don't forget at B-Ball Breakdown, we are not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Combo?
Yes, sir.